Humanity lives its usual, measured lives. Major political issues are decided in the White House, while outside, ordinary people make plans for tomorrow, unaware of the changes that await them. But one single morning changes everything. For an unknown reason, all carriers of the Y chromosome suddenly die in the city. Simply put, all males, animals, birds, and humans, including the country's president. The only men to survive are a young, talentless illusionist, Yorick Brown, and his pet capuchin monkey, ampersand. Regina Oliver is supposed to take over as president in the event of an emergency, but, unfortunately, she was out of the country at the time of the incident, and there is no news of her. Naturally, the lack of leadership leads to dire consequences. Riots break out in the city, and panicked residents smash the city, unsure how to continue living. Tensions are also mounting in the White House. The women realize they'll be trapped into weeks, their coal and clean water supplies running low. Food won't last long either. Animals can no longer reproduce, and growing a sufficient supply in a short time is simply impossible. And this isn't just a matter for one city. It will affect everyone. Senator Jennifer Brown takes the reins. It's Sarah Bergen, an agent of the president's secret group with the serial number 355, who makes her way to her. The girl reports that she was sent here because of a real threat, but they haven't had time to tell her the details of her new assignment. All this time, Yorick hasn't left his apartment to avoid becoming a target for the women, but supplies are gradually running low, and leaving a note for his girlfriend. He finally decides to go out on a reconnaissance mission. Simultaneously, the senator sends Sarah to search for his daughter, Hera, who hasn't contacted him since the disaster. But Hera is in no hurry to find safety. Instead, she arrives at a shelter to help those in need, including the wife of her deceased lover. Afterward, the girl returns to her friend's lair. At first glance, it seems there are still surviving men in the city, but soon, everyone falls into place. These guys were born in female bodies, and only through hormones were they able to change their gender. Therefore, the unknown illness has no effect on them. An evacuation begins in New York, and heavy military equipment is rolling through the city. Yorick has to hide to avoid being captured by the military, but he still manages to sneak into a local bar to leave another message for his girlfriend on the wall. Yorick still hopes she's alive, and that seeing his autograph will bring her home. Usually, Yorick manages to remain unnoticed, but this time, things don't go according to plan. His capuchin monkey escapes, and Yorick is forced to chase after it. The restless amp descends into the flooded subway and disappears into the filthy water, filled with the bodies of the dead. Overcoming his disgust, the boy decides to follow him, lest he lose his only friend. At one point, Yorick imagines he sees a living man standing nearby, but it seems it was just a vision. Shining a flashlight around, the boy sees nothing but filthy water. After emerging from the water, Yorick sneaks into a clothing store to change, but he can't stay in the shadows there. The store owners notice the naked customer and freeze in surprise. One of the women offers to capture the man and hand him over to the authorities, in exchange for a hefty bonus, but, taking pity on the unfortunate man, they ultimately let Yorick go, handing him a set of clean clothes. The stress he's endured literally drives Yorick crazy. Reviewing the recordings on his phone, he recalls the day Amp appeared in his life, and, apparently hearing the boy's voice, Capuccini emerges from his hiding place. The couple returns home, feeling completely safe, but when he hears the door open, Yorick realizes he was mistaken. Someone has broken into the apartment, and he'll have to defend himself. Armed with a guitar, he hides around the corner and fails to land a blow. Sarah proves faster and stronger. She wrestles the weapon from the boy's hands and, a few hours later, delivers him to his mother. Senator Brown, the pilots who delivered Yorick to the White House, are locked in. Sarah explains that they need to rest after the long flight, but everyone understands that there's something else going on. No one can learn that the new president's son has survived. Otherwise it could arouse suspicions of a conspiracy and lead to even greater unrest. Yorick himself is not happy about the situation. Having recovered a bit from everything he'd been through, he decides to take a look around. But his curiosity nearly leads him to failure. He's discovered in an abandoned office by Marla, the widow of the deceased president. Jennifer and Sarah arrive just in time, making it look like Marla is having mental problems. Meanwhile, Yorick manages to hide, but the conspirators are under threat, and Sarah insists that Yorick must be removed from the White House. The daughter of the deceased president tries to find out what exactly her mother saw that night. Jennifer assures the girl it was nothing more than a hallucination, but Kimberly suspects that Brown, now president, is lying to her. Jennifer Brown instructs her assistants to find a geneticist who can examine Yorick and determine what happened on the planet and why he and Capuchin survived. The president plans to bring specialists here, but Sarah remains adamant that it's too dangerous, and they must get the boy out of the city. The agent is ready to take on this dangerous mission, but it must be done quickly. Meanwhile, in Israel, a wounded woman awakens. As soon as she opens her eyes and learns that all the men on Earth have perished, she declares that she should now assume the American presidency. Nora Brady, a former advisor to the president, is forced to wander with her young daughter. Mackenzie, left without a livelihood and having lost her husband and sons. The woman struggles to pull herself together, but nevertheless decides to fight to save herself and her daughter. The White House learns that Regina Oliver, the leading presidential candidate, is alive. This leads to a split among the staff. Some remain loyal to Jennifer Brown, while others side with Regina Oliver and Kimberly, the president's daughter. In this situation, Jennifer is forced to agree with Sarah and release her son to a safer location. The agent enlists the pilots who brought the boy here in this mission. As motivation, she awards them heroic stars, promising eternal glory if they succeed. The only way to secretly smuggle Yorick out of the building is via a cart containing the bodies. The boy tries to refuse and come up with something else, but Sarah remains adamant. They can't take any chances, and Yorick will have to endure. The agent successfully extracts the boy and transfers him to a helicopter, but she intends to pilot it herself. A second helicopter, carrying only female pilots, is supposed to fly ahead as a diversionary tactic. However, as soon as the planes reach the required altitude and are out of sight, the escort helicopter loses control and disintegrates into a multitude of hot fragments. This terrifies Yorick, and only Sarah remains calm, knowing that this is the price of the female pilot's silence. After several hours of travel, Sarah and Yorick land in the forest for a short rest. The agent loses it and asks Yorick to undress after riding in a cart full of bodies. He smells bad, and it would be best to wash his clothes before continuing on. Yorick's sister, Hera, goes in search of safety with her half-male friend. Along the way, the pair stop at a looted store to try to find some food, but instead find a terrified Nora and Mackenzie there. After examining the girl's leg, Hera notices a seriously infected wound and asks Nora to allow her to administer first aid, so they can move on. Sarah and Yorick's camp is attacked by wild female robbers. The agent tries to distract them and send them away, but to play it safe, Yorick dons a mask and, waving a stick, intimidates the girls, fearing they will foil their plan. The unexpected guests leave, but the couple is hesitant to stay. They reach the nearest town and exchange a generator taken from a helicopter for a bike and a couple of grenades. But while Sarah inspects and checks the vehicle, Yorick, forgetting all safety rules, runs off to a secluded area, believing he saw his girlfriend, Beth, in the crowd. This stupid act leads him into a trap. He is surrounded by female police officers who rip off Yorick's mask and discover his secret. Sarah is forced to intervene to protect her friend, and after fighting him off, she takes the boy away. But as soon as she has a free moment, Sarah stops her bike to bring the loser to his senses and remind him of the importance of the mission he almost ruined. Hera, her friend, and their new companions come to spend the night at an empty women's shelter. The girl confesses to Nora that her daughter has serious problems. She needs antibiotics, but the pharmacies have long been looted, as have the empty houses. Frightened and helpless, Nora goes outside to keep her daughter from seeing her tears. But there the woman faces a new challenge. Horsewomen appear in the courtyard, introducing themselves as the mistresses of the house, and they seem less than pleased with the uninvited guests. The mistresses quickly discover the other visitors as well. They move them to the stables to get rid of the extra mouths to feed, but Nora notices something that could save them. One of the riders is wounded, and Nora asks Hera to examine the girl and provide assistance. The paramedic tries to do something, but the bullet wound is too severe, and all they have at hand is duct tape and a pair of rubber gloves. Several hours of surgery bring no results. The girls are getting worse, and the leader of the female gang, Roxanne, decides to end her suffering. Despite Nora's words, Roxanne proves kind and understanding. She invites the guests to stay the night at their home, and promises to provide the antibiotics Mackenzie needs. As the group follows the leader, Hero realizes that the antibiotics are only a small part of the gang's supplies. They own an entire shopping mall, stocked with provisions. Sarah and Yorick continue their scavenging of Boston to find geneticist Allison Mann. But at the entrance to the city, the pair are met by a checkpoint and a swarm of soldiers armed with tear gas. Sarah suggests splitting up. She'll distract the soldiers while Yorick and his monkey evade the ambush. After meeting her Boston colleagues, Sarah learns that the absence of men in the world hasn't cured him of his crimes. Entire squads of rebel women are constantly attacking Harvard, trying to break in and find answers. The plan works. While Sarah is talking down the soldiers, Yorick infiltrates some headquarters to escape the threat. But even there, he falls into the hands of the rebels, risking his discovery. He's lucky. The rebels mistake him for a trans woman and let him go, telling him where he can find his comrades, get the necessary hormones, and hide. Finally, Yorick and Sarah find Allison Mann's apartment, and then her office at Harvard. The geneticist isn't very happy about the visit of the strange strangers, but as soon as Yorick removes his mask, she immediately understands why they've come. Mann realizes she must study the boy and his capuchin monkey, but it's impossible to do so at Harvard. There's no equipment or samples left, so she suggests the only possible option: rush to San Francisco to use the lab there. Sarah agrees to another dangerous journey, but for some reason, without Yorick's knowledge, she breaks the radio, cutting off their only means of contacting the president. The agent uses this malfunction as an excuse to leave. She asks a friend to keep an eye on the geneticist, while she finds another way to contact the White House. Meanwhile, power-sharing disputes are flaring up again among politicians, a topic that concerns only a few. One of Jennifer's assistants, Kristen, becomes ill and believes she's lost the baby. However, an ultrasound shows otherwise. The pregnancy continues to progress, and it's quite possible that it's a boy. Sarah breaks into a house, whose owner turns out to be just as cunning as a secret agent. A fight breaks out between the two women, but when they finally allow each other to speak, it turns out that both burglars work for the same organization and have come for the same thing: to find the owner of the house and shoot her. Jennifer is distraught after learning about the helicopter crashes, but Kristen tries to calm her boss. The search party reported that they only found the bodies of 2 pilots. The relief is short-lived. The president realizes that Sarah most likely staged the accident, eliminating unnecessary witnesses. She becomes terrified. Yorick is in the company of a dangerous criminal, and it's unclear what she will do to him. Regina Oliver, a presidential candidate, is brought into the White House. Taking advantage of this, Kimberly is plotting a coup to get rid of the hated Jennifer Brown and subsequently seize power. Allison Mann confides in Yorick that she is unsure of the research's success. She doesn't know if they have the resources to find the cause of the men's deaths and reproduce their species. But whatever the case, difficult times await Yorick. and both he and his capuchin will soon become test subjects. Sarah returns to his office and suggests they move. For some reason, she lies to Yorick, claiming she spoke with his mother, and that they have permission to travel to San Francisco. The trio sets out, unaware that a military patrol is driving through the city with Sarah's photograph. But while the girls wait for a safe window between gas injections, Yorick decides to visit the place the rebels told him about, a community of people with altered genders, where he can take off his mask and not be afraid to show his male face. Sarah is furious at Yorick's latest prank, but it soon becomes clear that the main danger isn't the boy, but herself. The patrol arrives at the community and shows everyone her photo. The group manages to escape from under the noses of the lizards and hide in the church. Sarah is forced to admit that she has no connection with the White House, and makes all her decisions independently. Hera, her friend, and Nora and her daughter continue to live in Roxanne's community. At first glance, the group seems to have found a veritable paradise. There is food, medicine, and safety. But when Nora tries to take her daughter away from another meeting of radical feminists, Roxanne becomes furious. She reminds them that she's hosting guests, which means they must follow her rules and obediently listen to everything she says. Furthermore, Roxanne tries to make little Mackenzie hate men and join their movement. Another such gathering is interrupted by a military alert. The women set up barricades and, armed, rise to defend their supermarket. Their enemies turn out to be a group of unfortunate women with a little girl. Roxanne comes out to meet them, but she no longer accepts outsiders into the community. Even the child evokes no sympathy in her, and she drives the refugees away, refusing to help them. Allison finds a flyer in Sarah's belongings with information about a wanted agent. She suggests that Yorick run away to avoid putting himself in harm's way because of Sarah. But Yorick refuses to betray his friend, despite the fact that she is hiding something from them. That evening, Roxanne gathers her community for a celebratory event. At the very beginning, she tells the assembled people about Laura, one of the participants in a movement Roxanne proudly calls Amazons. At first, everything seems very innocent, but in the midst of the celebration, Hero and her companions begin to realize that something strange is going on. Laura is first covered in dirt, then lowered into a bathtub, and when she emerges, everyone begins calling her by her new name Athena. Finding this all extremely strange, Sam, Hero's trans friend, leaves the room. One of the movement's members catches up with him to warn him against conflict with Roxanne, but this only creates problems for her. She is called in for a talk. Jennifer reports that a search party has spotted Sarah and is preparing an ambush. The president begins to worry that the scouts will find her son, but by this point, Allison has finally managed to persuade him to leave, and the couple disappears into the woods. Tensions mount. The trackers try to catch up with Yorick and Allison, but Sarah neutralizes the soldiers and destroys their radios, which are transmitting a signal to the White House. That night, Nora awakens to screams. Trying to remain quiet, the woman peers out of the room and sees a crowd of Amazons chastising a girl for talking to Sam. The smiling beauties prove merciless, but Nora decides not to interfere. She wants her daughter to be safe, and for that, she's willing to accept the rules of the game. Sarah finds the van, and the group continues on to San Francisco, despite Yorick and Allison's attempt to escape. This, naturally, creates discord within the group, and the agent no longer trusts their fellow travelers, leading to further trouble. Sarah falls asleep at the wheel, and the car veers off the road. After getting out, Allison tries to find Sarah, but she's not in the driver's seat. A convoy of military vehicles, unrelated to the White House, immediately appears nearby. Jennifer is informed of this incident, as well as the fact that a man was among the fugitives. While the president tries to divert suspicion from his son, he awakens in an unfamiliar house, sharing a bed with an equally unfamiliar woman. After climbing out of bed, the boy sets out to search for his monkey, but finds himself in the company of the people who brought him there. The inhabitants of the ranch to which Yorick was taken turn out to be quite peaceful, except they won't tell Yorick where his girlfriends have gone. Meanwhile, the girls wake up in a prison cell, completely confused about where they are or how to escape. Jennifer appeals to the surviving women of the town to agree to evacuate and not cause a disturbance. In the crowd, the president spots a familiar face, Beth, his son's girlfriend, who has been in the hospital this entire time. While the president communicates with Beth, Kimberly continues to secretly persuade Regina to overthrow the imposter and take her place. Despite the friendly atmosphere, Yorick is not released. Instead, he's sent to the girls' cell to decide what to do with the captives. Added to all this is the news that a new strain of fungus has been discovered in Greece. Jennifer immediately jumps into this task, but she's forced to solve another one. Mal arrives at the command center to find out if the rumors about Yorick are true. The wait in the cell seems so excruciating that Sarah and Yorick quarrel again, but the pair puts an end to their argument when the heavy door opens, and one of the settlement's residents appears on the threshold. She informs the captives that a decision has been made regarding them. They are allowed to stay until Sarah recovers, after which they will be transported out of the city and continue their journey to San Francisco. The ranch owners assign Sam a separate bedroom, but before passing out, she warns Yorick to be careful and not trust anyone. But the young man is certain the agent is exaggerating the danger. The settlement turns out to be quite cheerful, and everyone seems very peaceful and kind. Moreover, they have plenty of food, electricity, and water, which have long been absent in other regions. Marla's grief is so overwhelming that she decides to end her suffering. Climbing onto the roof, the widow of the former president of the country steps into the void, eager to reunite with her husband and sons. She leaves a note for her daughter, apologizing and wishing her well. Meanwhile, Beth returns to the city, not to her friend's apartment, as she told Jennifer, but to a truck with the rebels planning an attack on the White House. Kate, one of the Amazons, tries to leave the group, but Roxanne reminds her of the strict rules, shooting the fugitive in the back. But Roxanne won't admit this to the other residents. She makes it look like the girl was attacked by nomads, and to prevent this from happening again, Roxanne sends everyone to intensive shooting practice. Furthermore, Roxanne plans to throw the guests out. Nora learns of this from one of the participants, and she rushes to the leader to beg her to let her and Mackenzie stay. No amount of persuasion works on Roxanne. She gives Nora a couple more days, after which the woman and her daughter must leave the commune. She recalls how she managed to find this place and create a community of Amazons, and from the first day, Roxanne was the sole leader. Nothing has changed since then. Roxanne continues to dictate her terms and convince the community's inhabitants that danger and death await them beyond its borders. She holds daily meetings at which the participants are expected to recall all the vile deeds of men and reassure themselves that Roxanne is the only one who provides them with safety. Sam is not allowed to attend these meetings, and he prepares to leave to occupy the guest houses on the lake shore and found his own commune. But Hera has fallen under Roxanne's influence. The girl isn't sure she wants to leave. Roxanne overhears their emotional conversation. She again begins to talk to Hera, convincing her that even a fake man can't talk to her like that. It all ends with the couple breaking up, and that night, Roxanne sends Sam away, allowing him to take some food. In the morning, Roxanne doesn't tell Hero that she was the one who let Sam go, but she does everything she can to reassure the girl. She even throws a farewell party in Hero's honor, a farewell to all things male. The party culminates in a noisy, cheerful party, attended by everyone except Nora. Roxanne fails to integrate into the group and to take revenge. She sets fire to the mall while everyone is asleep. The Amazons manage to escape, but their supplies are destroyed, and Nora pretends she had nothing to do with it. She disappears into the crowd, feigning grief. Pleased with her actions, Nora prepares for a nighttime escape. She goes into the woods to check her supplies, but on the riverbank, she finds a police car filled with bodies. It becomes clear that Roxanne is not who she claims to be, and Nora decides to use this to her advantage. Finding a moment when they can be alone, Nora tells Roxanne about her discovery. She promises to remain silent, but in exchange for privileges in the community, she and her daughter must always have the best food, safety, and a roof over their heads. But Nora offers more than just her silence as payment. She's willing to ensure that even after the devastation, the people will not abandon Roxanne, and she can remain the leader of the sorority. Roxanne agrees to Nora's terms. She gathers the people and delivers a loud motivational speech, promising that they will overcome all difficulties and conquer the world. Sarah is recovering and even resumes training, but she continues to be haunted by hallucinations and visions. Despite this, she keeps a close eye on Yorick, who seems to have let his guard down again and has placed too much trust in the villagers. Sarah's suspicions are heightened when one of the villagers pesters her with questions about the tracking device found in the car. The girl refuses to say what it is, but she clearly doesn't want Yorick to discover it. On Roxanne's orders, Hera finds another community, a group of women who have organized a memorial to the memory of men, under the guise of good intentions and protecting women's rights. Roxanne organizes a raid on the community to take their food and other necessary items. The Amazons unleash hell on the residents of the Memory City, but Noma realizes that everything is not going according to plan. Instead of taking the food and drinking water, the savages simply destroy everything. Enjoying the process, the woman dislikes this and tries to reason with Roxanne. But the insane founder of the squad believes she is doing everything right. Having fully recovered from his illness, Regine Oliver plans to overthrow Jennifer, and she asks her accomplices to be ready for the coup in 30 minutes. She turns to Kimberly for support, but after her mother's death, the girl loses her spirit and no longer wants to participate in the change. Meanwhile, Betty's team plants a bomb beneath the government building. Jennifer Brown is summoned to the command center to face charges of concealing information about Yorick. To protect her pregnant assistant, Jennifer is forced to admit that her son actually survived. She also reveals that the boy was sent to the geneticist in the name of saving the world, but no one knows whether he ever made it. Even those who had sided with Jennifer the day before now side with Regina. They ask the imposter to step down and hand over power to the real president, but this discussion is put on hold when an explosion rocks the building, suggesting that unauthorized personnel have likely entered. The rebels, led by Betty, break into the building. Making their way through underground tunnels, they encounter politicians, and the presidential security team is forced to lay down their arms and surrender. Jennifer recognizes Betty, despite her balaclava, but she manages to signal Betty to remain silent and not give her away. Regina's desire to be president vanishes as soon as danger appears. Therefore, Jennifer Brown is forced to take charge and communicate with the rebels. Responding to their demands, the rebels escort the hostages out of the control center so they can leave the building with them and avoid the savage townspeople. And it is at this moment that Regina finally begins to prove that she is the president here, and everyone should listen only to her. In a fit of rage, she accuses everyone of betrayal, tries to turn in her friends, including Kimberly, and, as the icing on the cake, announces that Jennifer Brown's son is alive. One of the rebels shoots the hysterical woman in the forehead, but this doesn't change what she's already said, and most importantly, it completely disrupts the group's plans. A prolonged stay in the settlement leads to a hunt for Yorick. The women are starved for male attention and wouldn't mind spending time with a survivor. Taking advantage of her friend's busy schedule and Allison's networking with the locals, Sarah disappears into the forest to destroy the sensor that has been transmitting her signal. All this time, the rebels fail to remove the hostages from the building. The second enemy group releases tear gas through the ventilation system. Gunfire erupts in the hallways, people scatter in panic, and those who don't escape in time fall dead to the floor. Betty secretly removes Jennifer's handcuffs and tries to take her away. The president doesn't have time to take his pregnant assistant with him, but Kristen isn't alone. Kimberly intercedes for her. The girls manage to make their way through the underground parking lot to the exit. Among the personal belongings in the memorial village, Roxanne finds a notebook with the names of all the surviving men. Now the leader has a new goal: find them all and destroy them in order to free the planet. The Amazons decide to start with a man they've seen before, who now lives in a nearby village. Nora shows Roxanne his portrait, and it turns out, of course, he's Yorick Brown. Betty gives Jennifer her uniform, and before they part, the president tells her that Regina's words were true. Yorick is alive. Roxanne and Nora set out to find the village where they suspect the surviving man lives. But as if sensing the imminent arrival of guests, Sarah urges her friends to move on. Yorick dislikes the news of their departure, but he's not prepared to argue with the agent. However, it's unlikely the group will disappear in time. Roxanne has already found the estate and is preparing a detachment for an attack in the coming hours. During a meeting at Roxanne's camp, two nomads burst in, and from them Hero learns of the president's death. Unaware that someone other than her mother had claimed the post, Jennifer assumes they are talking about her. But in fact, Jennifer is alive. After mourning her daughter, she prepares to escape with Beth. As the president cannot remain in the city, she has long been hunted. That night, Sam sneaks into Jennifer's house. Jennifer immediately recognizes his daughter's friend, and together the group attempts to escape. But the house is surrounded. Christy and Kimberly find refuge in an empty barn. Waking early in the morning, Kimberly tells her friend she knows how to save them all. They need Yorick to continue breeding, and Yorick apparently agrees, because he spends the night in bed with a village woman who has long had her eye on him. The idyll is shattered by the appearance of Amazons, led by the mad Roxanne. They burst into the town streets and demand the man be handed over to them. Sarah jumps out of bed at the sound of gunfire. She instructs Yorick's new girlfriend to escort the man out, while she remains in the house to repel the attack. Realizing the enemy's numerical superiority, Sarah leaves with her hands raised, feigning fear of the visitors. She brings a local trans with her, posing as the man in question. A serious shootout breaks out on the main street. Its sounds distract Sarah's convoy, and she disarms the attackers and escapes. Even little Mackenzie joins the fight, trying to prove to Roxanne that her place in the community is worthwhile. Meanwhile, Hera catches up with the group of fugitives. She fires at them until Yorick turns around, but recognizing her brother, the girl freezes, and Yorick's girlfriend fires a bullet at her. Unaware that she's her boyfriend's sister, Rananaya Kira Uspavat Reskozat Brachu Oji Belly Materi O Tom. Kto Amazonki Kochet Jigo Unik Tozit. Ano Pozvoliat Yoriki Uya. I Rodi Etogo Anolik Vidiriat Odnuis Svoik Sopleminits. Prostrelka Vigorodvi Polnum Rosguri. No Niazi Dano Norapobnimiat Ruki I Vikodit Vidcenter. Zayavlio O Tom. To Oni Stayetsia. Eto Prividit Roxanu V Beshenstvo. No Visem Ujna Eto Plevet. Kira Raskazivate Noro Tom. To Yorikshiv. Eto Prideat Genshinum Sil. I. Vernavshis V Svoi Loga. Nora Rishet Smestit, Roxanu. Okrive Sobrov Shimsia Divushkam Glaza. No Razgo Varini Destvut. Roxana Pradolzait Provot Siravat, Nora Dutekpor. Pokani Poluet Otnai Puluvi Grud. Odneozi Dynasty Amazonki Pubnimeat Oruzi. No Nora Nakadit Glyanik Utishitelani Slova. Ryadom Esne. Plechim K Plechu. Stanovitsia Kira. Is etogo momenta vubshi poyevlietsia novi vozik. Sarah prokodik niskolko kilometrov I. Nakanits. Nakadit Eureka, Ialison. Perenpo davlentem. Ktoan pateril sex voig bliskik. Iunigo bolshnets mislejit. Slushaya priatelia. Sarah priznatsia. Ktoan orkan korosho yego ponomate. Videtst venotos pateriola roditli. Krom togo, Sarah govrit yoriku. Kto. Yes Leon Koshe. On Mozik Uya. An opodzinula's Jennifer. Iznokit. Pasuljoji belik dogovor rastanut. No peronokazivatia. Prosit soru stet jego trenerum. Tobion parastolbit. Abazoi I smog sam sebias eshitit. Tim vremenin Jennifer. Bet I semo kozivatia zapati v pustoi comnate. Pod prismotrum kama. Company in Iznayet. To exakvatila commander seri is sekretnui slejby. Sliduja za signal on majochka. Sara prividit druzi kaz opravlenomu automobiliu. Pomomoto pliva. Vima shine jest v stlia provedenia isledovani, I carta esot mekinim. 1687. The wounded hero manages to tell her brother about their mother's death, and how the Amazons want to destroy him. She allows Yorick to leave, killing one of her fellow tribeswomen to do so. The firefight in the city is in full swing, but suddenly Nora raises her hands and steps into the center, declaring their surrender. This infuriates Roxin, but no one cares anymore. Hera tells Nora that Yorick is alive. This gives the women strength, and, returning to their camp, Nora decides to remove Roxin, opening the eyes of the assembled girls. But talking has no effect. Roxin continues to provoke Nora until she takes a bullet to the chest. The Amazons raise their weapons in surprise, but Nora finds comforting words for them. Hero stands beside her, shoulder to shoulder, and from that moment on, no new leader emerges. Sarah walks several kilometers and finally finds Yorick and Allison. The boy is devastated by the loss of all his loved ones, and no longer has a reason to live. Listening to her friend, Sarah admits that she understands him very well. She, too, lost her parents as a child. Furthermore, Sarah tells Yorick that he can leave if he wants. She was subordinate to Jennifer, and therefore, after her death, their agreement is terminated. But Yorick refuses and asks Sarah to become his trainer, so that he can stop being abuser and protect himself. Meanwhile, Jennifer, Beth, and Sam find themselves locked in an empty room, under surveillance by cameras. The group is unaware that they have been captured by Sarah's Secret Service commander. Following the signal from a beacon, Sarah leads her friends to a fueled vehicle. In addition to fuel, the vehicle contains everything necessary for research and a map with a marked location.